All right, folks, welcome back. My name is Dave. This is the Radical Independent. Got one of my favorite guests back on the show, a guy, I guess, who I consider a friend. I'm not sure if he feels the same way, but I think we've already had this conversation at one point. Please, everyone, welcome back researcher, author, television personality, radio guest. Um, I'm trying to think of all these titles for you.
Well,
Jim.
I got the face for radio, so that'll
I
work.
used to say that all the time. It's Jim Roguski, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Roguski.
Thanks so much. I'm here with a smile on my face because I'm a happy guy, but deep down inside, I am absolutely pissed off, and you should be too. And let me tell you why.
All right.
There is a digital health certificate in your future, and you should be really upset about the fact that they're trying to slam that through secretly. I'll give you the background on that. If anyone has been paying attention, if you're not enraged at this point like I am, then you're just not paying attention. Okay. We'll just touch on, hey, did you see what's going on in Brazil? Did you see what's going on in China? Did you see what's going on in the Netherlands? Okay. Those people are paying attention.
Yeah.
You need to be paying attention because what is going on is the World Health Association this week, actually, the International Health Regulations Review Committee is meeting in secret. And what they are discussing are proposed amendments to the international health regulations, which most people don't even know those things exist. And I'm actively changing their name because they're improperly named. They are actually the International Surveillance Regulations.
There you go.
If you actually go and read them, you'll see that I'm not talking smack. That's what they are. Okay. They were put in place because the powers that be really love lockdowns. And they realized that just stopping people at the border, okay, with some kind of a passport, based on your health status, that's not good enough for them. They don't want just, airport TSA rub downs or stopping the cruise ship at the port or maybe having a border crossing, where they check, your information.
Yeah.
The international surveillance regulations, otherwise known as the IHRs, basically set up a situation where the nations are obligated to build up their core capacity to monitor and surveil their own people inside their own nations. They want to lock down things tight before they get anywhere near the border. That's what the IHRs are. Okay, there's a number of articles and annexes in the documents that are all about, they're not digital yet, they're just paper at the moment, but essentially health passports, health certificates, call it whatever you want. So it's probably about 2 weeks ago now, at the G20, the meeting of the biggest nations on the planet, the Indonesian health minister, who, by the way, Dave, is not a doctor, okay? Before he became the health minister, he was a banker, okay?
Oh.
And you got to realize that this isn't about your health. This isn't about declaring a public health emergency of international concern, PHEIC. This is about investing in the other PHEIC, which is the Pharmaceutical Hospital Emergency Industrial Complex. They've realized that if they can create a panic, start an emergency, get everybody scared, they can pass legislation, they can dump money into their industry. And, what do you need now? The joke is you don't even need 8 mice. They're going to start doing studies on holographic mice to determine whether or not things are safe. Okay. And I said things. And so, the point is, the Indonesian health minister was busy talking about how they've raised $1.4 billion in their World Bank-based fifth. You ever heard of a fifth?
Yes.
Financial intermediary fund. Okay. What they want to do is raise that fund up to $10 billion a year. And the banker / health minister of Indonesia said to his audience, go invest in pandemic response products. Okay. We won't say what those things are, but you know where they go. And the whole point of it is it's all about money, people. It's not about your health. They never mention doctors or nutrition or herbs or vitamins or even essential medications, which are, again, names of things that we can't talk about. It's not about your health. It's about surveillance and control. Okay. Now, do you have to wait until, people burn locked in their buildings because of the control mechanisms before you're out in the street protesting, holding up white pieces of paper like we see people in other countries doing?
Mhm.
What's happening is they're having secret negotiations this week. The International Health Regulations Review Committee is 18 hand-picked, I call them goons, right? It's 18 hand-picked, fine, upstanding individuals from all around the world that are part of the WHO's panel of experts. They chose 18 of them. And what they've done is they've stuck that into the middle of the process. It's supposed to be that the delegates from all of the nations were told to send proposed amendments to the WHO that, you would love to see that discussed in public. Well, do you want to change the rules? Do you want to, have some improvements and things like that? Certainly, there's room for improvement. Okay. But what they did is they hijacked that negotiation. Tedros created a review committee that literally, I'm not kidding, it only answers to him. They're sworn to secrecy. They've let out a few little things. And what I got last night, and I just published, was a colleague in New Zealand, of all places, took my suggestion and did a FOIA request. And lo and behold, New Zealand responded. And they didn't actually have a proposal of their own for amendments. They're busy kissing the United States butt. They just said, well, the United States submitted amendments back in May, and we really like 5 of them. Okay. And that's all laid out in the latest article that I did on Substack, jamesroguski.substack.com. So, well, we like 5 of them. And, they put out a document that said why they liked those 5, but there's 7 others. And they didn't say they liked those. Okay. And so those are the 7 that you should be paying attention to, because it's all about compliance. And so what's going on here is they want to set up a digital system so that you can, you take your phone, right? And boop, okay, you're good. Well, number one, the thing that passport would be mandating that you do, we all know that it doesn't work. Okay. So what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's really not about your health, it's about control. And if they can control you in that way, then they can control what you put in your body. And what's happening now is, and this is the simple thing that a lot of people just don't talk about. The Indonesian health minister / banker made it really clear that's all about money, and that their nation got the G20 nations, so the big nations in the world, to agree not only to fund the investment, but to set up or propose amendments to the international health regulations, which are currently being negotiated in secret, so that they could submit these things to the WHO in January, potentially to be put into law, adopted during the May World Health Assembly. Okay. So, yeah, we got a little bit of time, but that doesn't mean you sit on your butt. It means that you go talk to your local politicians, you talk to your county, state politicians, and you let them know that they can stick their, I'm going to say it right, Dave, they
Okay.
can stick their global digital health certificate up their ass. All right. We will not allow to be mandated that we have to have this little QR code on our phone. I'm sorry, but that's the beginning of the beast system, right? You can't buy stuff, you can't go places, you can't do things, you can't travel, you can't live your life if you allowed this to happen. So if you're not enraged and pissed off, I got a smile on my face because I'm talking to Dave and we're buddies. Don't let this just slide past you. This is freaking important. Do something about it. And the first thing you can do if you want to is give me a call, 310-619-3055. If you're outside the United States, put a +1 in there because it's the US. Text me, call me, Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, whatever. Okay, I'm on all of them. Same number. hell no, Dave. Hell no. This is not happening. They can take this idea and they can just shove it. Period.
Yeah. Good stuff as always, Jim. Now, you were right early on about monkeypox, and you had this very clever name, and I used it a few times, and people were laughing. And you had renamed it moneypox, right? So we're kind of seeing the same thing just play itself out again with different issues, different things that they designate that are going to be a health crisis, or an emergency, an emerging emergency, if that's a thing. It's emerging before it's actually an emergency, which is very interesting how they have all of this predictive capability. Have you been noticing how it's kind of weird? How it's like they know in advance.
One of the things that they're trying to negotiate into international law is, billions of dollars for more tabletop exercises.
Yeah.
And now that's not yoga and other stuff. No. That means simulations. Okay, war games by any other thing. And so what they do is plan to set up an emergency whereby cha-ching.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, think about it. Any emergency triggers actions, triggers legislations, triggers funding. I saw something, I don't know if the numbers are exactly correct. I think it's over 4, but they said it was pushing $5 trillion that the United States just, hit a couple of keys on a keyboard. Boom, money into the. I'm stealing language back, Dave. If people want to learn about the language, they can go to the People's Amendments.com, thepeoplesamendments.com. They're stealing words from us, and I'm stealing a couple of them back. Okay, I think I mentioned one before. They like to declare a public health emergency of international concern, but I'm stealing that because what that really is it's just giving money to the pharmaceutical hospital emergency industrial complex. And I'll say that slower, right? Pharmaceutical hospital emergency industrial complex. There's a whole world of business. If you want to invest in something, if I lose, then that would be a good investment. If I win, it's going to be a crappy investment. This is not investment advice. I'm not a financial advisor. They know that, you got to make the math. I mean, how many billions of dollars have been spent on throwaway masks? My God. Okay. I'm surprised like people on Etsy aren't making artwork. Maybe they are. But all of the products that get sold for gobs and gobs of money, one of the reasons why they wouldn't let us have the things that worked and were inexpensive was because the stuff that's expensive is what they're selling. And what's going on with these negotiations is not about health. It's about all of the smaller nations in the world that pushed back earlier in the year. Dave, you remember we talked about what happened in May, and Biden's amendments got kicked to the curb. But they didn't get kicked to the curb for the reason that everybody thought they got kicked to the curb. The nations that said no because it was all just a bunch of sticks and there weren't any carrots involved. So now they've got the financing and the funding revved up. And what they really want is for the pharmaceutical hospital emergency industrial complex to build infrastructure. They call it core capacity. Okay. They want to build infrastructure. They want to have warehouses stocked to the gills with garbage, the types of things that they're going to push on you. Okay. Whether they want to stick it in you or shove it in your mouth or whatever, up your nose, whatever. They want that industry in their country. They don't want just the US and the UK and whatever making all the money. They want the corruption close at hand. Okay. If they really cared about health, there's a whole lot of things that they would be doing. That's not what they're doing. In their documents, they don't mention rather doctors or nutrition or herbs or anything like that. They actually had in one of their first meetings, the WHO, when they're talking about the treaty, they had a panel of experts and they asked them, what metrics could we enforce, right? What could we put into the international surveillance regulations that we could demand that countries meet these certain metrics? You got so many PPE on hand, or you got, this stockpile, or you've got, trained personnel or whatever it might be. And I was flabbergasted. They had, I think, 4 experts, and every one of them said, we don't know. The metrics that we were using prior to 2020, you would have thought Italy and Great Britain and Germany and Spain and Portugal and the United States, you would have thought that because they had money and infrastructure and systems and doctors, that they would have done better, but they did worse. But all these impoverished nations who were not meeting the metrics, they did better. I wonder why, Dave.
Yeah.
What could it possibly be that they did different that worked better? Okay. Well, they can't actually say what that is. They don't want to say what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the experts said, well, no, we really don't have any metrics. Principle number 16 in their treaty says, doesn't say it exactly this way, but it says, thou shalt not make health recommendations. Thou shalt not give direction to the world unless there's scientific backing, studies backing the recommendations.
Yeah.
So their own document is hypocritical because on one hand they're saying you can't make any recommendations without science, and I got to tell you, I've read the whole treaty. It's 32 pages long. I've read it a dozen times. There's not a single footnote to any study in it. So the whole thing is null and void.
Wow.
If principle number 16 says, well, you can't give any advice unless you've got, backup, right? So they're just a bunch of money-grabbing criminals who the first step in their plan is what the people in China are pushing back on. It's like, they got to show this little, QR code to do anything in life, okay? And if the government can just flip a switch and say, nope, you did something bad, so you can't do something that you're normally free to do, just by changing something, on a computer to make your code no longer work. If you don't push back against that now, you're going to have to push back against it the way they're doing in China and elsewhere. Yeah. So get up off your couch, share this. My goal is that this video has more views than any video Dave's ever done, and that's a bit of a high bar. I don't know what your biggest video is, but this one should be the biggest ever. And that's a starting point. People say, well, what can I do? Spread the word.
Yeah, spread the word. And just to add to what you were saying there, this is why people are wondering about why the United States won't condemn some of the activities that are taking place in China. You would think there might be 1 or 2 small human rights issues that the United States would be, going up against and saying, hey, guys, it's the U.S. here. And we all know the cozy relationship between the U.S. and China. And there's some people that are like, hey, let China be China. And I'm kind of got one foot in both camps to some degree. But when you see this stuff going on, you think to yourself, okay, I don't want that here. All right. I mean, we're supposed to be, the home of the free, whatever, but we're not anymore. We're the home of the lockdowns and the mandates and, these never ending emergencies. What was that acronym again? One more time, because it's the hospital acronym is just fantastic. What does it spell, by the way?
It's fake. Okay. The international surveillance regulations from 2005, 2007 gave Tedros Ghebreyesus the ability to pretty much whenever he wants, for whatever reason he wants, he doesn't really need any backup, is a public health emergency of international concern, PHEIC. They like to call it FEIC, right? But it's a fake. It's just a fake, right? PHEIC. And so I've just co-opted it, and it's the pharmaceutical hospital emergency industrial complex. And if you think about it, that's bigger. I shit you not. That's like way bigger than the military industrial complex.
Yeah.
Okay. And they quite frankly kill more people.
Yeah.
By far. It's an ongoing daily murderous, organization or complex. And so there's so many words that they have co-opted. Okay. That's just one of them that I'm co-opting back. And so we have an opportunity. The last research I did, I still got a little bit more to do before I publish this article. And, this video will go into it. I believe there's only 7 states in the United States, you live in one of them, that just flat out banned digital health certificates, some kind of passport, some kind of, thing you got to have on your phone. Some of the other states have prevented their government from requiring it, to like get government services or, go into buildings or whatever. Yeah. But as far as I can tell, in 43 of the states, we still have a lot of work to do. Okay. So wow. If you're thinking in your head, this doesn't matter, well, you're just flat out not paying attention, and that's okay. Yeah. You can go back and go to sleep. Yeah. If you're looking at this going, oh, maybe I should try to do something, the easy answer is just spread the word and raise awareness that as we speak right now, the World Health Organization is secretly negotiating amendments to international law that they want to submit to the WHO in January and have it be adopted in May. And it don't give me this whole crap about, oh, the Senate won't approve it. It's a pre-approved deal. We've already agreed to the legally binding nature of the IHR. And when they pass an amendment, that's it. There is no signature required. There is no Senate. There is no nothing. Yes, we can reject it, but now is the time to do that. So get a move along, people.
All right. James Roguski, always informative and interesting. Obviously, you've got a Substack. You mentioned, what was that website that you had mentioned as well?
The peoplesamendments.com. Please feel free. I just got feedback from two wonderful people over the holiday weekend, and we made a bunch of adjustments. The WHO is not asking for your opinion. Hey, if you were going to change the rules, what would you like them to be? Okay. I have a daily Zoom at noon. People ought to be able to remember that. It almost rhymes. So Zoom at noon, a noon Zoom. It's the link is always on the People's Amendments, the peoplesamendments.com, noon Pacific time, so 3 p.m. Eastern time. Anybody anywhere in the world, just adjust your time. JamesRoguski.substack.com, JamesRoguski.substack.com, and 310-619-3055. Give me a call. I've met a lot of wonderful people.
All right. Thanks again, James Roguski. Always fantastic. And we will persevere some way. Act locally, act big, get involved, and spread this video if you can. Thanks again to Jim Roguski, and we'll see you soon.